Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. We got a really interesting story idea from a listener, and we're going to dive into that today.
Oh, yeah. This should be good.
It involves a big name in Israeli politics.
Okay.
Ehud Barak, you might remember him, former prime minister.
Right.
And deeply involved in cybersecurity for a long time.
Cybersecurity, yeah.
So specifically, we're going to be looking at the sale of his cybersecurity firm, Paragon.
Okay.
And why that's causing such a stir in the Israeli intelligence community. So this sale went through for like $900 million, which is huge.
Okay.
And what's got everyone talking is that this company, Paragon, specializes in offensive cyber technology.
Right. Offensive cyber.
So not just protecting yourself from being hacked, but going on offense. And that's what's raising a lot of eyebrows in the intelligence community. They're concerned about sensitive Israeli security information potentially being compromised or even weaponized.
Yeah.
So to understand this sale, we need to zoom out a bit and look at how Israel became such a powerhouse in the world of cybersecurity.
Yeah, good call.
Especially when it comes to this whole idea of offensive cyber.
Right.
So maybe you can help me out here. How did Israel get to be so good at this stuff?
Well, it's kind of a natural evolution, right?
Yeah.
Israel is known for being this tech-savvy nation.
Yeah.
Very, very strong in tech. And they kind of embraced, I'd say, both sides of the cybersecurity coin, the defensive side and the offensive side.
Okay.
So defensive cyber is pretty straightforward. That's all about protecting your systems from being attacked, right? The classic kind of cybersecurity most people think of.
Exactly. Building your walls.
Exactly. But offensive cyber, that's where things get a bit more, I guess, murky. It's about developing the capability to hack into other people's devices and potentially manipulate.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a different ballgame.
So it's almost like the difference between building a strong lock for your door versus learning how to pick someone else's lock.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Both require skill, but totally different implications.
Totally different implications. And that's really the tension that Israel has been grappling with, you know.
Right.
They've excelled at creating these powerful tools, but where's the line?
Yeah.
What are the ethical and legal guidelines for using them?
Right. So they've got the tools, but they're not quite sure how to use them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or even if they should be used in some cases.
Yeah. Where do you draw the line?
Well, and it sounds like from the source material we have, this wasn't just an internal debate within Israel. The U.S. apparently got involved too.
Yeah. That's a key part of this story. The U.S., as you can imagine, is very concerned about the global spread of these powerful hacking tools.
Right.
You know, these cyber weapons. They don't want them ending up in the wrong hands. So they started putting pressure on Israel. You know, like, hey, you need to tighten up your export controls, right? You can't just be selling these things to anyone.
And it sounds like they were serious about it because the source material actually talks about a high-ranking Israeli security official being summoned to the U.S.
Wow.
Basically for a reprimand.
Really?
About Israel's kind of loose export policies. And this guy comes back from that meeting and he immediately slashes the number of countries allowed to purchase these cyber weapons. So it was kind of a wake-up call for Israel.
That's fine, yeah.
That, okay, the U.S. is serious about this.
Yeah. They're not messing around.
They're not messing around. And this had a huge impact, obviously, on Israeli cybersecurity companies. They lost a lot of markets, right? Because they're limited in who they can sell to. And now their customer base is much smaller. But here comes the interesting twist, right?
Yeah.
Ehud Barak and his company, Paragon.
Right. Paragon.
They kind of managed to navigate all of this.
Yeah. Fascinating, right?
Yeah.
They managed to get this huge deal, right?
Yeah. So despite all these restrictions, Paragon gets this massive sale, hundreds of millions of dollars to U.S. intelligence agencies.
Yeah. U.S. intelligence, it makes you think, right? What's going on here?
Barak's background, right?
Are you suggesting that
I'm just saying.
Barak's previous roles, like being prime minister and also heading up Unit 8200, gave him some leverage in this deal?
It's worth thinking about. I mean, the source definitely highlights how deep Barak's connections are, both in Israel and in the U.S., especially when it comes to intelligence.
Right.
So it makes you wonder if Paragon's success, you know, while all these other Israeli companies are struggling, is that just coincidence?
So for our listener who might not be totally familiar with like the intricacies of Israeli intelligence,
right?
Can you just give a little background on what Unit 8200 is and why that's relevant here?
Yeah, so Unit 8200, think of it like the NSA, but in Israel.
Okay.
It's their elite intelligence unit. They specialize in signals intelligence.
Okay.
So that means intercepting, analyzing, electronic communications.
Oh, okay.
Cyber.
And they're really known for developing some seriously cutting-edge offensive cyber capabilities. And guess who was in charge of this unit before he went into politics?
Ehud Barak.
Ehud Barak.
Wow. So we've got this controversial sale, right?
Yeah.
We've got Barak's deep connections to intelligence agencies.
Uh-huh.
And then we have the fact that the U.S., who was initially super concerned about the spread of these tools, ends up being the biggest buyer.
Right. The irony.
It's kind of like the U.S. is saying, we don't want these tools everywhere, but we'll definitely take them.
We'll take those, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a bit ironic, right?
Yeah.
You've got the people who developed and profited from these tools, and now they can only sell to a limited number of customers.
Yeah.
And the main customer is the one who put the restrictions in place.
It's almost like they created this problem and then benefited from the solution.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And there's another detail in the source that I found really interesting.
Okay.
Barak basically went silent after the sale.
Really?
Lowered his public profile significantly, like almost disappeared.
Oh, wow. Is that standard procedure?
I mean, it's hard to say for sure. Could be a coincidence. Could be completely unrelated, but it does make you wonder.
Right. Like, was he trying to avoid scrutiny?
It adds another layer to this whole story.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's one more piece of the puzzle we haven't even talked about yet.
Okay, lay it on me.
The capabilities of Paragon. Like, what can their technology actually do?
Oh, you mean what these offensive cyber tools are actually capable of?
Yeah, we don't really know. It's all very hush-hush.
Even now?
Even now.
Wow.
The source makes it clear that the specifics of their tools and techniques, they're basically a mystery, even within Israel.
So even other people in cybersecurity in Israel, they don't know what this stuff can do.
They don't know. And that's a bit worrying, right? I mean, even if the U.S. is a close ally.
Right, because they bought this technology.
Exactly, they bought it. There's still risk, right? This level of cyber capability, it's powerful stuff.
So if we don't even know what these tools can do, how can we even begin to have a conversation about the ethics of using them?
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
That's really the heart of the problem with offensive cyber. It's this gray area. Unlike traditional warfare, there aren't any clear rules or norms internationally, governing how it should be used.
So it's almost like, and this is going to sound a little crazy, but it's like we've invented this incredibly powerful weapon, but we haven't figured out the safety protocols yet.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And because these tools are so potent, the potential for misuse is huge, right? We've already seen examples of offensive cyber being used for espionage, for election interference, even sabotage.
Yeah, you don't even need physical access.
Exactly, to cause a lot of damage.
And that's what this whole deep dive comes down to, right? Does selling these offensive cyber tools, even to allies, does it create more problems than it solves?
Right.
We talked about the U.S.-Israel relationship, the potential for favoritism, the fact that we don't even know what this technology can really do.
Right. But maybe the biggest question is the ethical one.
Yeah, the ethical implications of all this are huge.
Absolutely. So as you continue to explore this topic, cybersecurity, geopolitics, keep this in mind. Is developing and selling these offensive cyber tools, is it worth it? And who's responsible for making sure they're used ethically?
That's a great question.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it really is. It's a lot to think about. Well, that was a fascinating deep dive. Definitely gives our listeners a lot to ponder. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep diving deep.